It all began with a fluorescent orange slip tucked under my wife's windshield wiper. Violation notice. Unauthorized parking, subject to removal. The instigator, Marlene, president of our neighborhood HOA. We live in one of those tight-knit gated communities, manicured lawns, strained smiles, and judgment hidden behind cheery emojis in group chats. My wife, Lila, uses a disabled placard and parks in a clearly marked ADA space near our condo. It wasn't assigned to us, but it was legal and close to our front door. Marlene hated that. She once called it prime territory. That morning, Lila walked in trembling, clutching the paper like it was toxic. She says I'll get towed if I park there again. I was furious. Marlene wasn't just a cranky neighbor, she operated the wall like a miniature empire. This is the same woman who fined a guy for hanging fairy lights. I'm calling her, I said. Lila grabbed my wrist. Don't stir it up, but I couldn't let it slide. Marlene had written her number on the notice, so thoughtful. I dialed. Marlene, this is Daniel from Unit B7. You left a towing threat on my wife's vehicle. That's a legal ADA spot, and she's got a valid placard. Her voice was clipped. That space isn't assigned. She's not entitled to hog the best spot every day. We have standards. I exhaled sharply. Federal ADA law overrides your HOA handbook. You can't tow a placard vehicle from a compliant spot. There was a beat of silence. Then, we'll see about that. Click. I filed a formal grievance with the HOA board the next day, but shocker, it never showed up on the next meeting's agenda. Administrative oversight, Marlene claimed. Meanwhile, Lila was forced to park farther away, limping with her cane through the lot. That was Marlene's strategy. Make it hard enough, and we'd surrender. But we didn't. I contacted the city's ADA enforcement office. I compiled evidence. Timestamps, photos, screenshots of her aggressive posts in the community portal. 2 weeks later, I got an email. Your complaint qualifies for investigation. Marlene had underestimated us. She thought a few scare tactics would send us packing. What she didn't realize was that threatening a disabled person isn't just harassment, it's illegal. And now the ADA was officially involved. A week later, a certified envelope was delivered, addressed to Marlene and the HOA board. Return address: Department of Civil Rights, ADA Enforcement Division. I could only imagine Marlene's reaction, probably sipping her fizzy green tea when the hammer dropped. At first, nothing, but then small changes began popping up. The vague, unassigned space signs were quietly removed. One morning, Lila noticed the curb freshly painted blue, a bright white wheelchair icon standing out against it. They made it official, she whispered. Yep, I confirmed, holding up the city's order. It's now legally protected, off limits to HOA interference. But the real shift came during the next HOA meeting. Marlene stood before the half-empty clubhouse, looking drained. We've been instructed to align with ADA compliance standards, she announced tersely. Legal counsel is involved. Parking policy revisions are forthcoming. No mention of the federal fines. Not yet. After the meeting, I approached her. You could have just asked. Instead, you threatened a disabled woman. Her eyes narrowed. You took it too far. No, I said calmly. You did. The following morning, an official city email landed in my inbox. The ADA investigation concluded the HOA had violated federal law, denying accessible parking, threatening legal vehicle removal, and retaliating against a resident with a disability. The penalty: weekly fines until full compliance. That's when things really unraveled. Marlene tried to rewrite the story. She posted in the neighborhood chat. Due to actions of a particular resident, we are now facing fines, something that could have been avoided with a little communication. Lila chuckled. Like threatening to tow someone counts as a conversation. The fines were steep, $500 a week, until permanent signage, curb markings, and a formal apology were in place. Marlene's crusade over one parking spot had become a financial black hole. And the community started noticing. Every Friday, another fine. Whispers became posts. Why are we paying for this? What exactly did Marlene do? ADA violations? For real? At the next meeting, tension rippled through the air. A younger neighbor named Ava stood up. Is it true we're being fined for breaking disability laws? Marlene tried to smile. We're addressing it internally. That's not what the city report says, Ava replied. You tried to tow a disabled woman. That's not just poor judgment, that's illegal. Marlene fumbled. It's more complicated than that. I stood up. It's actually very clear. My wife parked legally. Marlene tried to have her car towed. We filed a complaint. The law sided with us. And now everyone's paying the price for her behavior. Silence filled the room, then slow nods, murmurs of agreement. That night, the board voted to revoke Marlene's enforcement authority. She could still attend meetings, but decisions now required majority approval. Her face fell, her power vanished, but her damage lingered. That week, we got quiet thank you notes. A neighbor admitted she stopped attending meetings after Marlene fined her for putting up lights before Thanksgiving. Another shared that his autistic son was once reported for noise pollution because he clapped too loudly outside. Marlene had ruled through fear. But now the illusion cracked, revealing a petty bully with a clipboard and too much time. Lila began smiling more. She parked without anxiety. Neighbors started waving again. You could feel the air shift, like our street had finally exhaled. But we had one last card to play. That Saturday, Ava knocked on our door holding a clipboard, not Marlene's kind. A petition. We've had enough, she said. We're calling a vote to remove Marlene from the HOA board entirely. I grinned. The apprentice had become the leader. Even after all that, Marlene refused to budge. She kept sending out passive-aggressive memos, blaming troublemakers for rising costs. Her ego was draining our community wallet. The petition caught fire. By Tuesday, over 60% of homeowners had signed. At the emergency board meeting Friday night, the clubhouse was packed. Marlene stood up, her blouse ironed crisp, but her eyes betrayed her. She knew. Ava read the petition aloud. We, the undersigned, demand the immediate removal of Marlene, last name, for misconduct, harassment, and federal law violations. The board vote was unanimous. She was done. Marlene didn't argue. She just gathered her things and walked out, clipboard hanging at her side like a relic. Someone joked, "Think she'll audit herself on the way out?" For the first time in years, the room filled with real laughter. Weeks later, Lila received a typed letter from the interim HOA president. A formal apology, acknowledgement of violations, recognition of her dignity and strength. They also created a new disability access committee and invited Lila to join. She cried reading it, not out of victory, but because she finally had a seat at the table. The fines stopped 2 weeks after Marlene's departure. The board followed regulations, added 3 more accessible spots, and hosted a seminar on disability law. As for Marlene, last we heard, she sold her unit and vanished. The HOA group chat changed too. No more warnings, no more veiled threats. Just neighbors lending tools, finding pets, and yes, thanking Lila and me. It all began with a threat to tow my wife's car. But it ended with a neighborhood reclaiming its voice. Sometimes justice doesn't arrive with blaring sirens. Sometimes it pulls up quietly, with a placard on the mirror and a determination that won't back down. If you've ever faced an overzealous HOA or a power-hungry board member, hit subscribe. We're sharing stories they hoped you'd never hear. Like this video if you believe in standing your ground. And drop a comment below. Tell us how you fought back and made it count. We read them all.